All right, ladies and gentlemen, this scheduled meeting of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee will now come to order. The first bill that we will hear today will be Senate Bill 60. Senator Thompson, if you want to come up, we're going to let you go first. I know you've got more important things to do than sit in House committee meetings. To the very back. Senator Thompson, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We bring before you SB 60. It's a Georgia State Indemnification Program. It came out of your subcommittee and simply does is it allows the heart attack and stroke for our first responders to be covered. And this would mirror what happens in the federal program right now. So it's a pretty simple bill. I have Michael showing it with me if you have any questions, but it's pretty straightforward.
All right. Any questions from the committee at this time? Any questions at all before we? Okay. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you for this bill. So right now, if a public safety officer has a heart attack, what happens?
Well, they need to be in line of duty. I mean, obviously you got a workers' comp that would cover that, but this would allow an expansion for that. Is Chairman Gravely stated in subcommittee, in the event many times someone has a stressful situation in line of duty, it may be 24 hours before they have the heart attack. They go home and it wouldn't be covered. In this case, we would allow for that.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from committee members at this time? Chair recognizes Chairman Powell at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that this committee do pass Senate Bill 60.
We have a motion do pass. Do I hear a second? Okay. All those in favor will please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you being with us. Good bill. They want to recognize those who are online with us today also, just for those who are out in the audience. Representative Scott Holcomb, my seatmate, and that's all. Okay. All right. Representative. Okay. Next bill we're going to hear is HB 218 by Chairman Ballinger. You can present from the podium or anywhere you feel comfortable.
Who was presenting before me, but if they lost a mask, it's up here. It's a Georgia Tech mask. The bill I bring before you today is House Bill 218. It has to do with carry permits. I see you do not have the committee sub. Mr. Chairman, would you like for me to pause and go and get the committee sub?
If you would like to do that, please.
Okay, all right, I'll just suspend.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move right along to HB 248. Chairman Powell will bring that to us today. You can present right there if you'd like to, Chairman, or you can go to the podium, whichever you feel best.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I bring to you today HB 248. Back a few years ago, the legislature passed a bill, and it was called the Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Devices, or school zone cameras. And these were put into place to slow people down in the most vulnerable part of the roadways, and that's around school zones. And at that particular time, of course, there was really two parts. It's not just the roadways on the school property, but the ones that surround the school property where local law enforcement has a jurisdiction. One of the things that we had put in at that time was to require that the school boards have to sign the permits with the Georgia Department of Transportation to authorize these school zone cameras. And don't know whether it's because of misunderstanding or what it may be. I know that what some of the folks in the industry have told me, that the schools, since they get the revenue from it, that some of the schools have been trying to bargain with different companies to get a higher cut of the pie or whatever it is. I don't know. I can't tell you what's rhyme or reason. I only relay to you what I have heard. But I know at the end of the day that the local law enforcement officials, they have not been able to implement these schools on cameras because so many of the schools have refused or will not sign the permits to the Georgia Department of Transportation for the authorization of these. So what this does, ladies and gentlemen, it says that the local law enforcement, the governing authority that's representing, whether it's the city or county, the law enforcement, that they are then authorized to sign the GDOT permit for the authorization of these cameras. Been endorsed, I think ACCG maybe, and GMA has endorsed this bill. I think that the Chiefs Association and the Sheriff's Association, I know they were all at the subcommittee yesterday. I do know for a fact that the Chiefs Association, they put this right up there with putting cream on cake. So, I would certainly offer this to the committee and would appreciate your favorable consideration. I'll be more than glad to answer any of the questions from the committee.
All right. Committee members, are there any questions from the chairman about this wonderful piece of legislation? One question here. Representative.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing this bill. So just to be clear, so you're saying that the schools were supposed to sign off on having these speed zones and they basically haven't been doing that?
That's what I understand.
Uh-huh. And so have we heard from the superintendents or the school board association on this bill?
I haven't heard from them, but this bill's been out there for several weeks. And, of course, it didn't get anything to do with raising teacher pay, so they probably won't respond to it.
Valid point there, Mr. Chair. Any other questions from committee members at this time? I'm sorry, number 7, who's that?
Me.
Colonel, go ahead.
And I really don't have a question. I've got a little commentary. I got a call the other day from a sheriff, and he was kind of upset. The split in his county is 65-35, that the locals get 65% and the company that runs the camera with the radar equipment gets 35. But what he was concerned about was they came in and nobody knew about it, and it's in a very, very rural area, small school. And they put up the cameras, and in the first 2 weeks, they made 700 cases and pretty good bit of money. And he wanted to know what he could do about it. And I'm not so certain that we have a good answer for him. And his representative has also come to me and talked to me about it. But I think that's something they probably have to work out. But, I've gone ahead in my county and warned the superintendent and the sheriff that before they start using these things, they need to put it out to the public to let them know.
Absolutely.
But if the speed limit is 25 or 35 and you're doing 10 over, I don't know where the sympathy lies, except people don't like getting tickets.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
Colonel.
Yeah.
Adulting comes into play at some point there.
Well, and the reason we passed that thing is because they're little children who don't always have the cognitive ability to determine danger. And, if you're running 45, 50 miles an hour through there and a child runs across the street chasing a soccer ball,
That's exactly.
tragedy.
All right.
As a footnote, since my good friend chairman has chose to discuss that for the benefit of the committee that may or may not remember the original legislation. When we passed this, we put in ample due process. This is not a traffic offense. It's treated as a civil offense. They take your picture. You have due process. If you deny that was your vehicle or that you were the driver, then you've got all the due process in the world. The money does go to the school system, which is quite frankly something that I'm just amazed the schools wouldn't sign it, because we know how they feel about any other money that can disappear into a hole somewhere. But, it's due process, all of that. And as my good friend, the chairman, has spoke, it's 10 over the speed limit. So if you've got a 25 mile per hour speed limit, 10 over. So you've got that the same as that we have tried to give to non-GSP certified officers on radar detection. we've given that gap. And, you know, at the end of the day, the whole purpose of this legislation years ago, it really wasn't supposed to be about raising money. It was supposed to be about slowing folks down. They have to put up signage before, you know, they can only do an hour before, an hour after the school hours are in. They're supposed to put up proper signage. Now, the same member that the chairman spoke about, y'all spoke to me about how many tens of thousands of dollars that these speed zone cameras have generated for this one jurisdiction. I don't know about that, but if they've generated that much, I'd probably be considering putting some asphalt elephants around the school to slow folks down, because that's got to be a dangerous school zone.
Absolutely. Asphalt elephants. I like it. All right. We have some that'd like to speak on this bill. Who do we have here? Representative Lewinsky, you want to give some testimony here, speak to this bill?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is a great bill. I just came out to speak on behalf. I think most of it's been talked about, but really this is about the safety of kids and helping. We have an issue where cities have their, the big issue is the cities have the ticketing authority in some of these school zones. The counties don't. And so because of that conversations, the county sometimes won't even have the conversation of allowing these speed zone cameras in their school systems. So this really cleans up the intent of what the original bill did, and it's a great bill. So thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have bills in this committee with bipartisan support. Thank you. All right. Anyone else at this time? At the proper time, we'd like to hear a motion, and that is now. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Bill's moving out of committee.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It warms my heart to see a unanimous vote.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. Chairman Ballinger got back yet? Okay. Chairman Carson, you want to come forward and present HB 247, please? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. As I mentioned in subcommittee yesterday, 4 years ago, we started an initiative in this House of Representatives in regard to distracted driving. It led to a distracted driving study committee. I think some of you may remember that in the report, and the pretty incredible findings that we found that were happening all over the U.S., and not just in Georgia. We passed the hands-free law in 2018. You should have in your information a press release in regard to our success to date, or should I say from 2016 to 2019. We saw about a 4.5% reduction in overall traffic fatalities. If you look at the proportion of fatalities to total population in traffic, we're actually down 12%. It's a great success story. My bill 247, I'm working on, Mr. Chairman, LC 392721. I trust that's what everybody has. What this simply seeks to do is remove a first-time waiver in lines 86 through 90. This waiver is allowed by state law, and it basically says if I'm pulled over on a first offense for distracted driving or violation of the hands-free law, I can basically go into court, show a hands-free bracket or a receipt for one. And the problem is the law, as it states right now, says I shall not be found guilty. As a result, there's no record of that, particularly across various jurisdictions. So if I'm pulled over in Cobb and I go to Jody Lott's district in Augusta or what have you, and go to a county or municipal court, there's no connection between the two. If I go to anyone else's jurisdiction, there's no communication between those court jurisdictions. It's simply unenforceable. As a matter of fact, this provision was asked for by the other chamber, modeled after some other states' legislation. That particular state has actually repealed this part of their statute. So we're still the only state that has this. I'm just looking to save lives. I prefer to keep the fees right where they are. no increases whatsoever. But for our friends with the solicitors general and the prosecuting attorneys, just be able to process these misdemeanors. I just ask that we strike lines 86 through 90 and pass the bill. And I'm happy to stand for questions, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any questions from the author of this piece of legislation at this time? Any questions at all?
Thank you.
Okay, we do
Thank you
have,
to my friend that sits behind me on the
We
House
do.
floor.
we do have one person signed up to speak to this legislation. Barry Morgan with the Cobb Solicitor General's office. Is he here?
He is.
Yes, sir.
Based on what I heard from the chairman, I'll waive my.
Thank you. You know, the most precious gift you can give anyone is your time, so we appreciate that. Okay, all right. We do have a motion. Okay, we do have a couple of amendments to the bill, is that correct?
It's just a renumbering,
Okay,
so
what is that?
on line
Not me.
64, the
Okay.
A should be a 1.
Okay, on line 64 of the bill, the A should be a 1 according to lead counsel. A couple of changes that we need to make to the bill.
On line 72,
On line 72,
the B should be a 2.
the B should be a 2. Okay,
And then 79,
on 79,
the C should be a 3.
the C should be a 3. Mr. Chairman, do you want to change your motion to amend that?
I'm afraid I'm gonna get blamed for trying to amend this bill. So what is the amendment?
It's just a renumbering.
It's a renumbering of, I'd like to make that in the form of a motion if I could,
All right.
to change line
Just
64
renumbering.
from A to 1, from line 72 from B to 2, and line 76 or 79 from C to 3.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we do a technical change of renumbering without changing any substance of the bill.
Okay. All right. Okay, there's been a motion and a second. All right. All those in favor of those amendments? All those opposed? Okay. Now, all those in favor of do pass?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you. Chairman Carson, appreciate you bringing that legislation to us. I have to say that the biggest enforcer of no texting and driving and talking and driving is my little girl who's 9 years old. She loves to help dad do the backseat driving, and that's
One of the best things that we can do is just change the culture, and for our kids not to see us do it. In East Cobb County, I play a game with my kids. My son was only 9 when we passed the hands-free law. He's now 12. My daughter's 13, and I don't like it, but they're going to be driving soon. I don't want to think about it, but they will. We actually play a game, whereas the first person, either myself or my son or my daughter, that sees somebody on their phone, holding their phone while going down the road, I have to give them 10 cents. And so I owe them $1.80, but the point is that, we're starting that change in culture. So-
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I'll just add that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Thank you,
you, Chairman.
committee.
All right, Chairman Ballinger, she returned with us yet? Yeah. Let's stand at ease here just 1 second, allow her an opportunity to get back with us. She's getting that amendment.
Maybe.
I just want to make sure that Jay gets the originals.
Okay.
Because I don't have the old ones here, too.
Thank you. When you're ready.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, sorry, I apologize for the delay. I appreciate the patience of the committee. I present for you today House Bill 218. I'm working from LC 39288S. It basically combines two different bills. One expands the reciprocity of the state of Georgia. It will allow Georgia concealed carry permit holders to carry in 5 additional states. And the second part of the bill was Chairman Jasper's bill. And it basically goes into the emergency powers of the governor, prohibiting some things that he can and cannot do during a state of emergency as it relates to firearms. Sorry, I'm huffing and puffing. I went upstairs.
Take your time.
So I do apologize for that, but that is basically the bill. It is supported by the governor's office. I did vet it through them. They are good with it. So I know you have an administrative floor leader on the committee, and it is good with the governor's office. So I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
I've got some questions here. Number 9, who was that? Is that Chairman Workhider?
I'm 8.
Okay.
Hey, thank you so much for the bill. I'm looking real quick. I don't see who the reciprocity is with.
Okay, it's basically 5 different states, and Michigan is basically the big one because a lot of our hunters go up there. It will also allow them to come here. It just basically allows the AG's office to enter into an agreement. So it'll be 5 different states, and I can get those specific
That's fine.
states to you.
I appreciate you doing it. So sort of almost like the occupational compacts. We may not know who the states are, but
Yes.
okay. Thank you so much for the
Facilitates the
bill.
process.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the author? Okay.
Yeah, thank you for bringing the bill. Yes, so what I wanted to know if passing this bill would, my understanding is that some of these states that we would be expanding, or I mean, we'd be giving reciprocity for that they, excuse me, that they don't have,
Nobody has lower standards than Georgia for a concealed carry permit.
nobody has lower standards than Georgia for a concealed carry permit.
Go Second Amendment.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Does Georgia law enforcement know if someone has a valid concealed carry handgun license?
No.
And is it also true that law enforcement cannot be sure of the validity of a concealed carry license from another state?
Obviously, different states have different procedures, and they're welcome to call that state and try to determine whether or not that is a valid reciprocity. But I will defer to Colonel Hitchens.
Colonel Hitchens, you have something you want to add to that?
Well, I just say that the Attorney General's office on the website keeps a list of all the states that we have agreements with, and most all the law enforcement officers have a list in their vehicles, so they know early on. And this will come out pretty quick. If this passes, it's going to be on the Attorney General's website, which 5 states it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay, Representative Neal.
Yes, thank you for bringing the bill. So I'll preface with saying, being former law enforcement, former detective, and having that life, and then being a gun owner of more than one weapon.
If you know how many, you don't have enough.
I am just a little concerned because I'm trying to go through the bill, and then we've gotten feedback from opponents to the bill, and I just want to, if you can guide me to the area that says that this bill is only opening this option up for 5 states, as opposed to opening it up to anybody in the United States who has reciprocity with us or not. Because I say that because I just do not think it's fair for us to extend um, the enjoyments of our gun laws to other persons in other states who have not given us the same option or opportunity in their states, and we're giving them that blessing here. So if you could just give me some feedback.
This just
on that.
facilitates the process. It changes the process, and it allows for the Attorney General to enter into an agreement which would allow those permit holders in those states to carry here and our permit holders to carry there. Arizona is one of the states as well, I believe.
Okay, so my question is,
Mhm.
can you show me where we're only allowing for,
It does
those-
not specify 5 states. No, it facilitates the process, as I said.
so this can be extended to persons who, or to states that do not give us that same benefit?
It specifically governs reciprocity. Shall enter into an agreement with any other state that requires an agreement.
Because I know that when it comes to some gun exchanges that in other states that do not require a background check, those types of persons are able to come here unchecked and enjoy the benefits that we have here, to include states that do not give us that enjoyment in their state. So for me, it's all about fairness.
Okay.
And I just want your feedback on from that standpoint.
Well, I don't know if there was a question there. Like I said, it just facilitates the process. As far as other permit, yeah, I presume you're talking about permit holders whenever you mentioned either, a gun owner coming into the state. We are specifically addressing permit holders. We are not addressing non-permit holders. So if you're a gun owner, there's different folks, some people own guns. They don't have a concealed carry permit. Some people have a concealed carry permit for the facilitation of even the purchase of firearms. So it just depends, those are two different types. Those are two different groups. So if you're a gun owner in Texas and you move to Georgia, you may or may not have a concealed carry permit. You don't have to have a concealed carry permit to own a firearm in the state of Georgia.
But just confirming, just for me,
Yep.
that either way, if a citizen comes here from a state that does not have reciprocity with us, they can come to our state and enjoy the benefits of our gun laws, even though our citizens can't go to theirs and do the same.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Chair recognizes Chairman Powell.
I want to thank the author for this bill, and you're exactly right. I was asked a question about an issue that I worked on years, and that was reciprocity with my neighboring state, South Carolina. South Carolina had different criteria for their concealed weapons permits. And thanks to the governor at that time and some of the legislative friends that we have over there, then we worked an agreement of reciprocity. Now, right now I think Georgia reciprocates with, and I'm sorry, I can't even tell you how many because that's been a movable number for years. 19 or so states, maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, is that correct? And this bill was brought by the NRA to try to prompt further reciprocity. And as authors spoke, that the AG could then petition or work with these other states to do reciprocity. My original question was to answer the representative over there who asked the question about law enforcement and knowing who has a concealed weapons permit. When we did a couple of us and Ms. Ballinger, when we did a major upgrade of trying to clean up some language a few years ago, that question continued to be asked by the naysayers to Second Amendments. And the reason that language was put in there was that the Supreme Court has ruled, and it ruled years ago, that a police officer cannot ask you if you have a concealed weapons permit just for the sake of asking, because quite frankly, it's none of their business. If they're arresting you for some other person, they're going to know whether you do or you don't. But because of the particularities about the Constitution and the rights, and I know that we all believe in the Constitution, or at least ways most people I know say they do, because they quote it like it's the Holy Grail. But, we do try to live within the constitutional boundaries of this. So be more than glad Ms. Ballinger she knows most of these laws as well as anyone, and we'd like to, if you have any negative feelings about this, then, maybe we can help to educate on some of the reasons that people throw out there.
Number 6, who was that?
It's me again.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you, Chairman.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you. So one of the strongest components of Georgia's carry license is its discretionary provision, which allows a judge to deny a license to someone who's deemed not to be of good moral character.
Yep.
And of the 18 additional states that would have carry privileges here in Georgia, if this bill were to become law, 5 of them do not have discretionary provision in their handgun license. So wouldn't this then expose us to people having, carrying guns here who have not been, it may be possible they're not of good moral character, is that possible?
I believe in states' rights. I believe each state is a governmental entity unto itself, and it has the right to make the laws that it sees fit. We have that provision in our law. We have a lot of provisions in our law that other states don't have. Other states have provisions in their law that are not existent in Georgia statute. And I believe that's the way it should be. I believe that, some of the states require a class to get a concealed carry permit. We do not require a class to exercise your Second Amendment rights. Every state is different. This would just allow the Attorney General to enter into reciprocity agreements with other states.
Okay, number 7, is that Colonel Hitchens?
I really don't have anything. Chairman Powell actually answered it. You can't ask to see the permit. To simplify it, you just have to have probable cause, just like a law enforcement officer has to do with anything else. To stop a vehicle, to make arrest, you have to have probable cause to believe that a certain unlawful act or violation has occurred.
Okay, thank you. Representative Neal, you have something else you want to add? Question?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I have one more question. Well, 1.5. My first one is, what's the current process that we already go through to get reciprocity, being that we already have the agreement with other states? And what's the difference between just going through the regular process that we already have versus doing this bill?
We have specific reciprocity. This would allow for general reciprocity in which the Attorney General, like I said many times, it just facilitates the process and allows the Attorney General to enter into an agreement with the other states, allowing our carriers to carry there and their carriers to carry here.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, number 15, is that,
That was me, Mr. Chairman, but thank you for bringing the bill. And I know you've said it now, and I probably shouldn't even repeat it, but we're back to the only language change in this is allowing the Attorney General to make those decisions.
Yes.
And he can consider all of these things that we've been conversing about. Is that not accurate?
That's correct.
Thank you.
very simple. All right. Chair recognizes Vice Chairman Mathis for a motion. Okay. Yes. Motion is made to pass the bill by committee substitute. Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Anyone online?
I vote yes. Yes, as well. Petrie.
Yes, Gravely.
All right. Thank you. The bill passes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I
Thank you.
appreciate the committee.
Thank you. Is there anything else we have before us today? That's it. There being no further business of this committee,
I'd like to reach out to some of the committee members that are believers in the Second Amendment issues. There's been a few of us that we've been working on some legislation, and because of the protocol issues, that it's hard to get a lot of work done with leg counsel, and because of the difficulty, as y'all can see, a very simple bill like this that Representative Ballinger, Chair Lady Ballinger brought up, is a major issue to make Second Amendment changes. But I can assure you there's an awful lot of changes that may need to be made for the benefit of people's constitutional rights. We've been working, several of us have been working on this, well, since before the session started, about cleanup language of how it would work with the issuance of a license. I mean, during this pandemic, we've got probate judges who, because they construe this, the issuance of a permit as a judicial action, which is not, in my opinion, it's an administrative function to do this. But there's been people that have been denied their rights to a concealed weapon permit. There's been numerous things it has to handle. We've got jurisdictions in this state, even though the law so states that they refuse to dispel themselves of confiscated weapons that are supposed to be auctioned off. There's warehouses of these things that continue to grow. The problem with that is sooner or later, if there's no accounting to them, somehow they always walk out the back door and things such as this. And there's just numerous issues that need to be addressed. Not the least one that several of the counties in the state have administering probate judges who absolutely refuse to issue a concealed weapon permit because it's not in their personal feelings to do so. So that being said, if we have any of the members of this committee who would like to work on these issues, that would like to help us move them forward, if they could see me at their convenience, I'd like to talk to them, and Ms. Ballinger, myself, and Representative Jaspers, and several of us who's been in the ditches on this issue for years would like to recruit your assistance. And I'd certainly like to hear from you, members.
All right.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are adjourned.